Hello world, this is Barbie Lee, this is Shake Talk. This is an opportunity to take a breath, relax, have some breakfast, right? You know me, I love my Isagenix Isoline chocolate mint shake. This is my morning go-to. I was thinking the other day about, having the same thing for breakfast, and I'm like, really, I've had the same thing for breakfast for a really long time. Now, it's not always been chocolate mint because we've had different flavors throughout time, and when I'm in Mexico, we don't have chocolate mint, so I didn't get it there. But it's the same thing every single day. I wake up in the morning, I have my, what I call my shot of Ionics and my shot of Cleanse. That's my go-go juice, right? Gets me going in the morning. And then I have my shake, and this is what I do every morning. And yet the topic today is change is good, and I'm like, I don't want to change my breakfast. But maybe when I did change my breakfast to change my life, my whole life changed. I was like, oh, okay, I've already made that change. So I don't need to make that change because it's a good change, right? So there's some good changes and bad changes. So that's what we're talking about today on The Best Breakfast Ever. And good morning, good day, everybody. And make sure, when you come in, you say hi, give me a wave, that kind of thing. All right. So a number of years ago, I got a phone call, and it was an automated phone call. And it said, this is BMO MasterCard. Please call the number on the back of your card and ask for blank and site number blank. And I'm like, well, that seems weird, but legit, right? Because it's not like answer, pick up this phone and hey, we're MasterCard. They sent me an automated message that I had to call the number on the back of my card. And I thought, okay, it must be legit. So I called the number on the back of my card, asked for this department, and I gave this number. And some very nice guy says to me, oh, a machine that you used your credit card at last week has been compromised, so we need to send you a new credit card. We're canceling your card, just so you know. We canceled it as soon as we knew about the fraud, so your card isn't valid. I'm like, what? I'm like, oh, because I'm thinking all the things that my card is attached to, for pre-authorized payments and stuff like that. He goes, those will go through, he says, but you'll have to change your number in the next 30 days, to this new card number. And I'm like, oh man, I have had this card number and this card for like 15 years. I know the number. I don't even have to carry the card, blah, 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 blah. And he says to me, ma'am, change is good. And I laughed and I'm like, you're right, change is good, right? Look, it's fall, right? So here in Canada, I was talking yet a couple days ago, but all the leaves on the tree, there's like a third of the tree left of leaves based on the last couple of days of wind, right? Change is good. So what is it that is good change, and what is it that is bad change? Because, well, here's the thing. We can explain away change, or is something good or bad, or is it just is, and how we relate to it and all that. But, sometimes there's things that we do need to change in our lives for the better. So, for example, when I wasn't well and I was very, let's call me fluffy, I needed to change my lifestyle habits for the better so that I could have a better life. And I have, right? In these last almost 15 years with Isagenix, completely turned my life around in this. So I know that when I wasn't well and I needed to change my lifestyle, if that was for the better, right? I needed to start eating food that I prepared, supplementing, right? Making sure that my body got everything it needs. That kind of change is good, right? When we do change for the bad, which is if we've started a healthy lifestyle and we go back to our old unhealthy ways and we put the weight back on, or we start getting exhausted again and all that kind of stuff, then it's not good. I listened to a lady's story yesterday who, she said she was on Isagenix 5 years ago, and then a, store opened up near her, and she's like, oh, I could just get this stuff there. I don't need to pay and, wait for shipping. I just go when I want. And it took her 4.5, almost 5 years to realize that she was slowly going downhill and back to where she was because the quality of the products were not the same as Isagenix. So she said, I changed and went to Isagenix, and that was good. And then I decided, oh, no, I'll just go and do this. And, she's like, and it wasn't good, but it took me like 4 or 5 years. And that's some of the things that happen with change, right? Now, some people are forced into change, right? Your doctor says to you, like I've had many people who call me up and say, okay, Barbie Lee, my doctor said if I don't lose 50 pounds, I'm going to have a heart attack in the next year. That kind of change is for the better. But what if you were to change slowly, and then it didn't have to be this big thing. And this is where people are adverse to change, when everything has to change at one time, right? And this is where I tell people, start with something little, right? Start with, adding a shake every day to your breakfast. Start there, right? If you want to change your breakfast to change your life, start with changing your breakfast, right? Add a shake, maybe add some vitamins, right? I use my go-go juice in the morning. Find something. Start with one thing. It doesn't have to be a complete overhaul. Yeah, Isagenix, we have programs for complete overhauls, but I'm talking about how do we have long-term sustainable change, right? Because some people, and it depends if they have addictive personalities or type A person, I'm going to do this, whatever. But a lot of people start a new habit and then they fall away. And there's a whole thing about, how the brain talks to each other and how the neurons and the dendrites communicate and everything, how the body takes over and stuff. And there's a whole study and science around it. And if you like that kind of stuff, go follow Dr. Joe Dispenza. But there's a time when your body just goes, yeah, I'm done that. And it reverts back. It tries to go back to its old ways. So unless you've created sustainable change, you're going to go back to your old ways. It's just the way it goes. It's just what happens. So when you want to change, sometimes we say we want to, but we're not willing to do the work, because there is work involved in change. So for example, when it came time for us to start the shakes. Now, I did a whole overhaul of my life, right? Because I had to. I was physically in a really bad place. My husband and my kids didn't have to, but they kind of did because I did. So when I started on Isagenix nearly 15 years ago, everybody had shakes for breakfast. Even the girls, I'd mix a little tiny bit of the shake. They'd have that with their pancakes or waffles or whatever they were eating for breakfast. And over time, we upped their shake intake, right, first thing in the morning. And that was their goal, right, is to have a shake for breakfast. 14 years ago. So Rydell is nearly 25, right? Taylor Ray's 21. So we're talking, 7 and 10 years old, and all of a sudden Mom says you have to eat this for breakfast. I have to sneeze, it's going to come. And Mom says you have to eat this for breakfast. That's why I gave a little bit every day. And then their bodies started feeling better, and they wanted more and more of the shake and less of the sugary stuff. And now, well, Taylor Ray's a little, not so easy because she's in Indonesia and she doesn't have her shakes, but she still does smoothie bowls for breakfast, right? She can't get the Isagenix out there, but she still creates something similar. Right now, shake for breakfast, right? I was talking to her the morning after she got married, okay? They're at a B&B, and they made a beautiful Eggs Benedict and this whole breakfast for them. And Rydell says to Jordan, go make a shake, we'll share it, and then we'll go for breakfast. So she was, even in that moment where she knew she was going to have this amazing breakfast, wanted her shake first. That's not change, that's lifestyle now, right? That was something that happened 14 years ago because she made the decision. It didn't happen overnight, right? And this is, change is good as long as it's for the good and it's serving you, I talk to so many people about their health and other things too, because, I just talk to people. I love to know what people are doing, if they're happy, the job that they're doing, their relationships. I love to know about people. So I have all kinds of conversations with people. And one conversation I had in Mexico was with this guy, and he was talking about, financials, and, he was never a good saver, so, thank goodness for his pension and stuff like that. And I said, well, what do you think should be different? Well, I should have. I said, no, not what you should have done, but what can you do right now? And he's like, well, I'm 76 years old. It's too late to save. I said, it's not. If that's what you feel you want to do, why don't you just start with $5 a week or $10 a week or, something, and create yourself just a little change, right? And he's like, okay. Anyway, totally forget I have that conversation with him. And then a month or so down the road, he was like, do you know, I put $240 And he told me in a drawer. Because he's in Mexico and he doesn't have a Mexican bank, so he ended up putting equivalent of Canadian $240 in a drawer. Because what he decided to do was every time he went out and had a beer, he put the equivalent in the drawer, right? Because he figures if I can afford a beer in Mexico, the cost of a beer in Mexico is a third or a half of what it is in Canada. So he kind of, doubled down his money kind of thing. So every time he went out and had a beer, he put the money in his drawer. I'm like, you drank $240 worth of beer in 2 months? Like, that was my reaction. But I'm like, okay. Anyway, so he's retired. He can do whatever he wants. But the point is, even at 76, he changed how he did things and how he was thinking about saving. And he says, he goes, I like doing this because, he goes, when I die, there's going to be a little bit of money to leave for my grandchild because he doesn't have like life insurance or anything. He goes, and that's what I'm going to do now. He goes, it might only be, $500 if I die next week. He goes, I better drink more beer. Now he has a goal, right? Drink more beer, save more money. But change can happen when you want it to happen, but you have to be willing to do the work for it, right? So if you're in a job that you don't like, right, or they're not respecting you or your wishes or your beliefs or whatever, great. So what are you going to do to change that? Are you looking for another job? Are you talking to other people? Are you taking the steps necessary? Oh my God, this lady called me up. She goes, well, I guess I'm going to go back to school. I'm like, I guess I'm going to go back to school? What is that? And she goes, well, I need to upgrade. I'm like, for what? She goes, I don't know, for some other job. And I'm like, you don't know what job you want. You don't know what you need to upgrade, but you should go back to school to upgrade? I said, that is not good change. No, don't get me wrong. All education is good. But if you're not doing it for a purpose and you're just doing it because maybe, I said, decide what you want. And then if you need upgrading and more schooling, go and get it. And she's like, well, how do I know what I want? I'm like, oh my God, you start talking to people. What do you do for a job? What do you love about it? What do you hate about it? What do you do for a job? What do you love about it? What do you hate about it? Start having these conversations to invoke change, right? It doesn't just happen, right? The universe, right? Mother Nature and these leaves on the trees outside, it doesn't just happen. In the middle of April, the leaves don't change yellow and start to fall. There's a planned, a process in Mother Nature that causes the change to happen. It just doesn't randomly happen. There is a method to the madness of the universe. I'm trying to think of the word. There's a word that's not coming into my brain. But the concise patterning and how things work, right? The laws of the universe, it's not haphazard. So our change should not be haphazard. Now, when I had to change my credit card and my MasterCard because the machine had been compromised, that was a little out of the blue, haphazard. But you know what? I made it work. It was all fine. And now I've had the same credit card again for another 20 years or 15 or 10 years, whatever it's been, right? So my point is very simple. Life is meant to be juicy and delicious. Like it really is. And if you're not getting up every morning with a woohoo attitude and, saying, gosh, I love this day. And, if I died today, it'd be okay. Like it's not okay, right? But it would be okay because, I feel that I'm living life to the best that I can. And there's no regret, right? So when people are on their deathbed, there's often regret. And, oh, I wish I would have done this and I wish I would have done that. And so the less regret you can have, obviously the better your life is going to be. Now, I'm not saying be willy-nilly and haphazard and just jump out there and just do all these things that you think you want to do and whatever. Create the change in your life to get those things to come into fruition for you, right? So I have my goals around my walls and the things that I'm working towards and the things that I want. And okay, I'll give you an example of pickleball. I'm not a sports girl. I don't care for competition in the sense of that somebody has to win and somebody has to lose. I love competition that makes everybody better, okay? So pickleball. I was in Mexico and I was like, oh my God, I need something physical to do, right? And my friend said, why don't you come and try pickleball? I have an extra racket. And I was like, what's pickleball? So I looked it up. I'm like, I can't play that. It looks like tennis, right? He goes, come play it. So I went and I sucked at the big one. I missed the ball. I couldn't hit the ball. I couldn't serve the ball. I've never played a racket sport, really. I tried racquetball a couple of times, and I'd get hit in the face with the ball, and I didn't like it, so I stopped playing. My coordination wasn't that great. But the problem was I never tried to have coordination. I just tried the sport a couple times, got hit in the head, and said, I'm done. So it was just never something I picked up. But in Mexico, for me to do something physical, because I didn't want to play tennis, because I knew it was a big court running around. I didn't want to do that. I was like, pickleball I could probably figure out. Well, that was 2.5 years ago now, right? Because that had been January of 2018 that I was introduced to pickleball. And I sucked really, 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 really bad. And now I don't suck so bad. I'm not great, right? Yesterday we were playing in the wind. It wasn't great, but I can get the ball over. I can serve. There's certain moves that I can make. And I'm now actually running these little intro to pickleball classes for people to come and try. Because if you just show up with a group of people who know how to play pickleball, it's really intimidating. And then when you miss the ball, you feel so bad because you're playing partners, and the partner's like, oh my God. And I know that feeling. So I'm creating the space for people to come and play some beginner pickleball. So Friday night in Edmonton, if you're interested. So if you're conscious about the change. So with me, it's taken me a good 2 years of playing pickleball pretty consistently, and it's not something I just did on the weekends or whatever, right? So when I was in Mexico, so the first time, I was playing 3 to 4 times a week out there. Second time, last winter, I was playing 5 days a week, right? Up to 2 hours a day, sometimes 3 or more. And there was a couple days where a few of us met in the evenings and tried some drills and practices and stuff. So I got a lot better. Now we're playing here, and we're playing maybe 3 or 4 times a week for a couple hours. So it's like 8 or 10 hours a week now that I'm playing. You can't just go and do something once or 1 hour every month or every couple weekends or something and you know, be surprised that you're not getting any better at it, because change takes time. Change takes time. This is like quitting smoking or adding healthy foods to your diet, or, you know, getting a new job or improving your relationship. Whatever it is, it takes time. Change is good. When you make the decision to be consistent, to do the work. And you know what? I'll tell you the people that make me the most crazy. Well, I know I should, but. I'm like, seriously? I know I should, but. The but just canceled everything else. Excuse me. Well, I would like to change. So do it. What's one step you could take today to change? I don't know. What's your step? You got to figure out what you're willing to do. How to be active and engaged in life is to really take a look at your life and say, what do I want from this? Now, there are people that are perfectly happy sitting around getting this government assistance that's showing up here in Canada and stuff, and they're not willing to do anything else. Great, let them do it, right? For me, I want to create a better life. I have a goal here to help 720 people change their breakfast to change their life. 720 people. Why'd you pick that number, Barbie Lee? There's reasons. Numerology, all kinds of magics of nines, you know. 720 people. But it's got to start with one. And then I help that one help somebody. And that one can help somebody. And you know what? Before we know it, 720 people have changed their breakfast to change their life. Because you know what? Change is good. And putting the systems in place to make change easy. So for example, when you come to my house, I have people that stay over sometimes, right? People come from out of town and just say, come and stay here. And I say to them, I have no breakfast items in my house other than shake. And they look at me. You don't have cereal? Nope. Eggs, toast? Not usually. Sometimes we have eggs, but not usually because I don't eat them. Dwayne eats them and he buys them and sometimes they're here. Bread, I'm not a big fan of bread, right? I said, I have naan bread or I'll have tortillas. You know, does that work? And they're like, no. And I'm like, I don't have, actually, I think I have pancake mix now. I think Dwayne bought some pancake mix, but I don't have flour in my house to even make pancakes. Like, I have fruits and vegetables if you want to make like a fruit, just a fruit and a smoothie. Like, you know, I just don't have breakfast. I don't have milk, right? Somebody said one day, well, can I have a glass of milk? I said, sure, I have French vanilla milk. And they're like, okay. So I made a shake and I gave it to them as a glass of milk. And because I just don't have breakfast items, because this is the breakfast in our home, right? I do have a waffle maker, but I don't know the last time I used it, Jessica, because I don't have flour in my house. Anyway, the point is this. I set myself up to make healthy choices by, when I go to the grocery store, I bring the stuff, or I buy the stuff that's healthy and bring that back into my home. I don't buy the unhealthy stuff. Now, is there a little bit? Do I have a little bit of a, I have this one potato chip thing that I really, 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 really like, and a little bit of ice cream? Sure. Dwayne has cookies in the cupboard. I'm trying to think. But most of the stuff that's in my cupboards and in my fridge is healthy items, because that's what I choose to purchase, because I want to feel good. And the changes that I made in from eating unhealthy to eating healthy are good. So I'm going to challenge you. Change is good. What good change do you need to make today and tomorrow and the next day, and be consistent with, so you can get the results you want, and that you're not blaming anybody outside of you, your circumstance. Oh, I put on the COVID-15. I didn't put on COVID-15. Why did you? Ooh, that one stung, right? I said that to a lady the other day. Oh, well, you know how everybody put on the COVID-15? I didn't. I didn't at all. Well, you're different. Yeah, because I made a choice a long time ago to take care of my health and not let something like this affect me. Because no matter what, I had my shake every day. I even cleansed this summer, which is something I don't normally do because I get too cold. I don't know. Choice I made. So I'm going to challenge you. Make a choice. Make good choices. Decide what is right for you. Be consistent. Be persistent. And be willing to do the work. Life is that simple. And by the way, if you want to be one of my 720 people who change their breakfast or change their life, reach out to me. I'd love to help. Make good choices.